Hello again, everyone. My name is Erik Sprowls, and I was the series creator of Frightening Fridays. And with me today is...
Heather Sage. I played Gwendolyn, or Gwenbot, on Frightening Fridays.
We gave you a formal name. We called you Gwendolyn, and then I think we played, what was it, the play off the Gwenbot? Wasn't it off like the Mike Myers movies and the James...
because I was supposed to, like, you know, be shooting from everywhere and exploding. That never happened, thank God.
Like the big... We left it out there so we would have you on and we would knock you off, you know, and then we could always bring you back as another Gwenbot.
Yes,
you know?
Weren't we supposed to put Ben or somebody on an island just filled with me? But then that never happened either. I remember that. I was just supposed to pop up, like, everywhere now and then.
No, I think that was just a fantasy that Ben had at the time.
He couldn't get over that I died.
Isn't that right, Ben? And this is, oh, hey, we're doing stuff here. Hey, and this is the next chapter in our series of ongoing commentaries on how we brought the TV series Frightening Fridays to life. And it was a lot of fun, was it not?
I loved it. I was so sad when it was over, but it was probably the most grueling 12 hours of every Sunday, but I loved it. I loved it. It was so fun.
I think it was pretty amazing that we would actually crank out a whole episode, like on a Sunday afternoon. What time would we start? Like 1, maybe?
No, we'd start at like 4, and then...
Was it really 4? That late?
No, that was when we started doing it on Wednesdays. Remember, we first started on Wednesdays, and we go from like 4 to 1, and then the next semester we did from like Sundays. We did it from like 1 to 1. Yeah, that's how it was.
No kidding. I don't know why I thought we would do it. We started like on a Sunday at like 1 or 2 o'clock, and we'd finish around midnight. I don't know where the heck my head was on that. Anyway, it was a wonderful show to do, and a pain in Mendoza's side.
It just made it so much more fun.
Yeah, she was actually the unofficial villain of the show.
She was. Like, you know all the backstory, and you're really paying attention, you'll be like, oh.
Yeah. Well, she really knew it, too, because she goes, hey, what's that story you were telling me before we started this?
With the Frightening Friday thing? She came up to me last semester and, like, elbowed me. She's like, hey. She's like, did you know that there's a Fright Night Friday out there? And I'm like, it's Frightening Friday. It's always been Frightening Friday. Didn't you not know that? Like, that's how much you paid attention. She's like, no. It was frightening. Like, you know, what are you doing? Type thing. Like, it was... I was like, no, it's always been Frightening Friday. She's like, oh. And that was it.
Well, actually, the part that makes me laugh in that whole thing is when she's like, she always has tried to find dirt on me, like I'm an evil son of a bitch, and she's like, did you know that there's already a Fright Night Friday out there? And I was just hoping you would say, yeah, did you know that Erik made that too? You idiot!
She's nuts.
Oh, anyway, this is episode 6 of our show, and this is called... I don't know what the heck it was called, but Mr. Credit already went by. It's not your wedding. It's the one leading up to the wedding.
It's sort of like my first introduction into getting into the Axe Files.
Right. Creepy has sent you on the inside. He likes to do that a lot. And the inside to infiltrate the Axe Files from the inside.
I can say something there, but I won't.
What are you saying?
Mike likes to get inside a lot of stuff, but we'll just leave it.
What exactly? This is
nothing. I'm being a jerk and just kidding. He's my best friend. No, stop.
No. I'm gonna be like Letterman. I'm gonna pursue this, like inside doors. Like what? Okay, we'll table
doors,
that one.
Yeah,
like 50. You're as red as your hair. You're like 50. We'll let that one go.
Doors, that's the other name for girls. Well, whatever.
Well, he likes to think that the costume gets the chicks.
Yeah, I know.
The funny thing is, you get Ben and he's like in a tux, and he's like, pretty much, well, except for his shoes. But he's in a tux and he's looking good and everybody's like...
mattered because you can see his shoes.
Yeah, he has like these work boots on, like he's out with PennDOT on the highway, but like from the ankles up, he looked pretty dapper.
Yeah, it was a very good butler, houseman, servant thing that he had going on outfit.
Yeah, and actually, yeah, I was pretty good at it. I like that scene too, because I like how creepy already has his bags packed. Says, "Here you go, get out."
And here's Damien. he's still, like, my friends met him a couple, like, shows after this, and they still bring it up. Like, do you know that kid that used to talk with his fingers? Like, he's somebody I'll remember to the day I die. Like, he was really good, too.
I think a lot of this, Jeremy, this was improv on his part, wasn't it? I don't think that anybody said, hey, Jeremy, would it be cute if you... Yeah. He just started talking with his fingers, didn't he?
Yeah. Because we scripted maybe the first 2 episodes with him, and then after that, it was just like, he was so good at it. It was just like, go ahead, and he did whatever he did, and it was awesome.
I think this one was, this episode, well, I take that back. I think the last episode when we had the format changes and we were doing like the Springer show and all that other stuff, I think that was, I want to say, the turning point of the show, because the first 4 were kind of like, they weren't too bad, but it was kind of like no one really could act, and we were still trying to feel our way through it, and Mike was still Mike, who plays Creepy, was always doing the thing where he was adjusting his hood because it kept falling off, and you could see his arms underneath, and I think this one we started to crank out some fairly good work, you know.
Yeah, the format change one's probably my favorite one, because it just showed how, like, versatile, like you said, how we had all, like, we really were those characters, sort of, which kind of got scary, because that was just like, hey, that's us, you know, that's us on the weekend, you know, and like how we could go from set to set and different thing and still be ourselves, but in different formats. That's my favorite one.
I think it was nice to have a mythology for the show, like, you know, like a ongoing plot line, but I think the standalones were always the best ones. I think the format change was nice, and I thought the one that we did coming up with the musical and the Sexy Saturday Nights one was pretty good, too.
Yeah. Yeah, Laura Micas was pretty good with that.
She what?
She was very good with that, playing her Sexy Saturday Night girl.
Yeah. It wasn't much of a stretch.
No.
You know, she's like...
She's the Paris Hilton of everywhere. Like,
yeah.
They don't have to worry that Paris Hilton's in jail because Laura Micas is still running free.
Yeah, and if she's ever in jail and Paris Hilton goes away for a while, we can always just say, hey, you got Laura Micas, we'll drag her out, give her a little chihuahua with pink boots, and she's got it made.
Exactly.
It's funny there on the desk, the photo albums that Ben is looking at are actually photo albums I had of another show that I did at another university called In Neon, and those are like behind the scenes albums of the show I did there. You know, it's funny, I was telling Mike did a commentary for I think the first episode. He says, whatever happened to all those props and stuff around there? And I said, you know, I still have a majority of them, like the night and stuff like that. The one thing I always wanted to get and I never did, we talked about this before we started, was that angel in the background, the skeleton angel.
Yeah.
You should steal that.
I should. I have so many. I could do it because I have so many accomplices in crime or whatever. Is that the right word? Accomplices?
Accomplice, yeah. You better get that down right. So you'll be needing it later.
All semester, I've been saying to people, I was like, I'm going to get that. It's going to go in the trunk of my granddam. It's going to be awesome. She'll never know it's missing. And well, because if not, it's going to like dry rot in the former vault. So.
it's like, yes, we got it. And then you get home with it and you're like, now what the hell do I... How do I do with it now? It's like, yay.
I'll just like leave it in my trunk. I know I will. And my mom will be like, can I use your car? And she'll get groceries and open it and there'll be like a big gothic angel. And she'll be like, Heather, what's that? I'll be like, oh, it's from Bright Night. It's okay.
It's amazing how many times this room doubled for everything in the show. This room is the one right next to the main Frightening Friday set. And when you open those vault doors that Igor comes into or out of, it leads into this storage area that it's supposed to be the basement of the Axe Files.
There's a lot going. Those little hands. I remember I bought those at Little Hands. I was like, we're going to use them. And we eventually did here, obviously. There's like a bag of little hands. And Matt's like, what are we going to do with a bag of little hands? I'm like, we'll use them. And we did.
Yeah, I was like, what the hell are we... I was even the same way. I was like, weren't they all like part of like some kind of strung together on string and you could decorate something like a...
Yeah. Well, and Jody and I were going to put them... Remember when we had like blood trickling down from the altar? Remember we thought that would look cool, and there's that picture. You're like, no, it's not. And Jody and I are like, look at our blood, and you're like, yeah, that's not cool. But
no, it wasn't that. It freaked me out because you got baby skeleton hands on a bloody altar, and I'm like, well, you know, the show's...
It could have been from like a little animal, like a back foot of a rabbit or something. It didn't have to be babies.
Look at the hands. They don't look like paws. They look like little hands.
That's what your imagination's for.
It's funny, too, because this is the X-Files, or the Axe Files headquarters, but I remember in the last couple episodes, of the series, it also is the warehouse that the evil Reaper, the new bad guy on the scene, was supposed to be his headquarters in some seedy warehouse down by the river.
And that's when we found that like catwalk, sort of, those stairs that go up, and there's that door that, you know, is locked, and I still don't know where it goes to, but
I think it went to a classroom, didn't it?
that's what we should do. That's how
Did you see? Wait, did you see there? You're like, I have an idea, and then you walked away.
You know, like,
oh yeah.
I did, and we'll see it in a little bit.
So this was the first time you ever acted?
Sort of, like on screen it was. I acted in like musicals in high school, but on screen and like in front of, you know, people that I could actually see. It wasn't a dark auditorium, you know, and I was real self-conscious because I knew this is what I want to do and I had to prove myself. But yeah, I'll tell you, I sucked. I'm not going to lie, I think I sucked, but I'm a lot better now. Check out Love It on BUTV.
Yeah, because by the time anybody listens to any of these commentaries, that'll still be airing on BUTV.
Oh, it will, because what else is there to air, really?
Nothing that I know of, unless it's old Frightening Fridays reruns.
When Mendoza dies, that'll happen.
She's never going to die.
You know? I think
she'll be producing shows there forever.
Yeah, even, you know, popping the nitro, being like, you know, stage left, and she'll, you know, whatever. She'll be doing it forever.
That's so horrible. I got to tell you, this was one of my favorite scenes on the show. Just because he's like all about telling you, you have to knock them off, and you're like, whoop, I got a beep, and you put him on hold.
I remember when we were filming this, I couldn't get like a whisper down, and you were like, whisper, you're like, you know, whisper, and not talking, but a whisper. I'll never forget you saying that. I just couldn't get a whisper talk down, but then I finally did.
It's funny too, because sometimes with these, here it is.
Because I watch. That's so me too. I do that. Like, I'll just cut off anybody. I'll be like, I have another call.
So we typecasted you for this role then?
Probably.
But like, I remember, because a lot of it is when you're dealing with college equipment, and we didn't have the best of stuff. I mean, you can look at the shield in the background with the crease across the middle that says, "Hi, I'm cardboard."
It's a lot of hard work for that.
But the theater whisper is like an exaggerated whisper. Like you whisper, but you whisper in theater like you always act for the last row in the house, not in TV or as far away as the camera lens. But it's still, the audio equipment wasn't that great to pick up things. So some of the stuff we had on the set, like that, the axes on the right were like really nice props we got.
Well, one of my favorite outtakes that showed like during the award show was when it was one of these scenes and Creepy's like right in front of the door and the axe just like fell right off. Do you remember?
Oh yeah, I do actually remember that.
That's when we got the duct tape then and sprayed it brown, and that thing never fell down then after that.
I do remember that. I remember that, and the funny thing is too, you can see those bloopers on other parts of this set, this disc set. There's bloopers in this set, and I think that's in there.
It should be. Yeah, it was one of the really good bloopers.
You know what I always thought was neat to look back at? The progression of time, like how cell phones changed. Like, I did another show called In Neon, and it's the first time I ever noticed it. Now that we shot that in 2001, we premiered it in 2002, but the phone is like this freaking big. And now they're like, you got the flip phones, but like even these, if you, in about 5 years from now, because you got the Razor phones now, those look so thick in your hands.
I'm sure there's an endless list of people that would love to attend this. I mean, let's think.
I think Damien or Jeremy is the one, and we talked about this on another disc, and I don't want to belittle this, but I want to hear your opinion on it. He always played that character,
myself,
well, gay.
So wrong. He did though. You can see it.
Yeah, and well, that's the thing. I remember him coming to me saying, "Eric, I don't want to play this character anymore." I'm like, "Why not?" He says, "Because everybody thinks I'm gay." I'm like, "No one thinks you're gay. It just shows that you're a good actor." And I was trying to bullshit him. He's like, "No, everybody thinks I'm gay. You know, not a good actor." And did he ever talk to you about that kind of stuff?
No. But what? Like, did he ever come to me and be like, "You know, I'm playing like it's really not acting." I'm like, what kind of? He never. No, Jeremy's. No, he's
straight as an arrow. I mean, you know.
I was gonna say that, but I was like, no, that's kind of an old thing to say. But you said it.
Yeah, I figured I better say it.
No, but you could see that, and I think that just was part of his thing, especially since like he was, how could you say, like a 20-year-old guy playing like about, you know, a person with a 6-year-old mentality. It was kind of like forgiving, you know, and I couldn't imagine him not being gay-ish. You know, it would have taken away from the character.
I also like the scene here between these two because it's the first time they really got to act a lot. He's like, thank God he's gone. They acted a lot on screen, and I like how I can't remember what Ben or Cedric said there. He said,
This is fun.
what did, who was Jim Doyle? Yeah, Jim Doyle was the running joke on the show. And he said, how about if we interview Jim Doyle? And they both laughed hysterically. I don't even know how Jim Doyle ended up being like the running joke. He was for like 3 or 4 shows.
I think probably because he was like the best known person aside of like anything on BU campus, period, and like BUTV, because he was always being interviewed and everything. So, and he's a cool guy. Like you could have done that, and you knew you weren't gonna see him like passing by in like the quad and be like, oh, making another stab at me. Like he was a cool guy.
I like this scene too when he's talking with the finger puppets and realizes it's creepy because he's kind of standing there the whole time and busts him. We had some really good moments of brilliance on this show, and I don't say that to brag, but like some of the things, if you watch this and you watch like the old Addams Family show or the Munsters and stuff like that, and they'd have like the horror-related jokes and stuff. I thought that in retrospect that we nailed a lot of that stuff here. I thought we did a pretty good job at it.
Yeah, for being college students and for most of us, our first time like acting, I thought we did really good. It was the best show ever. It was on BUTV.
I think we got fortunate too that like we had little offices like this. Like you could redisguise it as being a headquarters or like the real people land, not the castle, that kind of thing.
This is probably like my favorite scene that I had to shoot because we practiced it I think just once, and then Matt and I were just like, let's just go and do it, and it was probably one of my favorite scenes because this is exactly how Matt would act. Matt would get all flustered like that.
Yeah, he would too.
And that actually, I did like conk his head on that desk that time. I remember. He told me that like months later. He's like, remember that time on Friday night? And I actually did bang his head. And I loved that tape. I loved tearing that tape apart. That was so fun.
It's funny, like, all you did was like spill water and then you hand him this pile of ashes. It used to be that videotape. It's like, oh, here's your tape. Like, how in the world did you get it in that shape? All you did was dump water on him. It's like, but you had those giant, massive, like stiletto heel looking shoes too. You did a nice job on it.
It was so fun. When you said I had to break a tape with my heel, I was all about it. I didn't want to like let anybody down.
You had 2 reactions that I really liked too. Whenever you first came in and you said, "Can I help you?" and he said, "No, thanks," you bit your lip and you looked down at the water and you're thinking, "What can I do with that?" That was a nice job. And also, I liked at the end there when he says, "No, I have a backup." You're like, and then you're gonna walk off like that was all for nothing.
I know. I remember doing the like bit lip thing because that's kind of like, like what's a sexy, cute little thing like a girl could do? And it's like, oh, this water, why not? Because it's so blazing hot. They're supposed to be.
I like this too. This is Joe DeMola, and he was one of my assistants when I taught at the university. He actually created the BUTV website for a while, got it up and running. It has nothing to do with Joe now, which is a crying shame. But he did a real good job on putting things together with the site, and he had like a cameo, and he says, "Can I get a cameo on the show?" And you knew it was only a matter of time that kind of stuff would start because the show started to take off and people started to watch it, and everybody was asking, "Could I get a cameo on the show?" So when he did, and we gave it to him, I said, "Yeah, you could be a delivery." You could even see like the stuff sitting in there.
Yeah.
It was funny. We even did it, and we've talked about this last time. That door doubled for like everything in the show. Like what?
It was the vault. It was the bathroom. It was where Igor lived. And I love too because it shows like how primitive things were, like the tails that they just grew every now and then because of the wire, the non-wireless mics that they had to use. But with Joel's character, it just kind of always fit in. It didn't matter that he would like have a tail every now and then because it was Igor. It's like, yeah, he grows a tail every now and then. Why not?
It's funny. There's I still keep in contact with the horror community, like a lot of other hosts. There's a show that is done called Howling Horror Theater. It's only done on the internet by a friend of mine called. I know his name's Jeff Warbany in real life, but he plays a character like Baron von Wolfbane or something like that. I think that was his name. Anyway, he hosts this show, and you know, the horror community, when you all do all these horror host shows, you network and you talk with how they do shows. And if you watch this guy, it's howlinghorrortheater.com, and you watch his show, he has microphones coming out of his pants.
Oh, really?
Or, oh yeah, and it's not, so we're not the only ones that ever did that kind of thing. It's the way it's done. You know what that is right there?
What?
That's the Haunted Mansion in Disney.
Oh, really? Well, don't you remember that weekend we all went down there and they let us shoot?
Yeah, I do remember that, yeah, because we had the big budget.
Yeah, exactly.
And then Mendoza used it as a tax write-off.
Exactly, yeah. That, I think, is where she got one of her heart surgeries done at, actually. You know, from all that money she got.
I wouldn't doubt it.
Here we are in the back room again. It's another section of the... Well, I guess it was, I was in the Axe Files, like, basement, trying to hide out so nobody would see me.
Again, you're in the room that Mueller and Scully are in, that the Evil Reaper's in, that Leah and the trio later on break into. We use that room for so many things.
Well, like, from week to week with us doing so many other productions, like, stuff did get moved around, so, I mean, it was still the same room, but there was always, like, movement going on in it with props, so it did sort of change up every now and then, but... It was still the same room all the time.
So what was it like, Mary and Ben?
Oh. It was the greatest. It was the greatest 2 weeks of my life.
Yeah, was he a stud?
Sexy as hell.
Yeah, buddy, that's what we like to hear.
You know, chicka bow wow. Yeah.
So where'd you guys go for the honeymoon?
Transylvania.
Transylvania, yeah. You know, for being an FBI issue, I like how she shows her belly button in all the shows, her like her open shirt and everything.
Well, you know.
Do you think she looks like Leah Remini?
No.
I brought this up on another commentary. I think she looks like the wife on King of Queens.
I can see it. I mean, I can see, you know, like there's that thing on TV right now, like the next best thing, and it's all the people going in to be like Lucille Ball and everything. Like I could see she'd probably make it to the next round, but I don't see it as close as you do.
I seriously, well, it's because I love that show. I bought the whole DVD collection of King of Queens. I love it. And when I started remastering these episodes, I just noticed that she did.
I love how like Creepy's just like moving Cedric out or whatever he's doing here.
He wants to get rid of him. He wants him out of his cat. I think the ultimate is Creepy wants to everybody leave him alone. He just wants to take over the world, but he wants all these minions of his to get the hell out. You know, leave him alone to do so.
Yeah, and he's just like back there. That just shows how good we were too. Like everybody was real. Oh, and I want to bring up, you know, the little lantern. Remember we bought that? We were all excited about it, and then the damn thing didn't work because the little like flickering thing wasn't with it. So we had to put tissue in it to make it go.
I do remember that. I forgot about that until you just brought that up, but I do remember that not working. So that's actually just something we actually fixed.
Yeah.
It looks like a real flame though, doesn't it?
It does. I think it would have been, because it would have been just a little piece of plastic, but we got a like regular piece of tissue, so that was more like waveable and flexible and looks more real.
I like that whole scene too, when I like their dialogue while he's moving everybody out. He's like, well, we have 3 different choices for what Gwendolyn really likes, and one of the choices is plaid for like your napkins for your wedding. I'm like, first of all, Heather would not be caught dead with plaid at her wedding for napkins, and it was, the irony was that's what he said. Oh, plaid. Gwendolyn loves plaid. Damien, you're brilliant. And he's like, yeah.
I remember thinking that, and I'm like, if this goes into like a full-on wedding, like, what am I gonna have like girls in like Catholic school uniforms, like, you know, like that's my bridal party, like seriously.
Yeah, I can see that too. And it was funny. He made this whole great big list out of people to invite to the wedding, and then when the actual ceremony takes place, no one's there except like you guys and Creepy.
No, it wasn't even Creepy. It was the skeleton guy. Didn't he give us a ceremony?
Well, Count Numbskull, the skeleton, the animated skeleton who marries you and Ben, that actually is legal in Utah.
Is it?
Yeah. You're actually married to Ben in Utah.
Yeah, that's why I don't visit Utah that much.
But like, yeah, he marries you guys, but Creepy's the best man. You didn't even have like...
Oh yeah, I don't have anybody who, because there weren't, well, there was Leah, but there's no other girls, so...
I was going to put Igor on your side and
Damien.
Damien.
Put him in a dress. Again.
Well, you know what? We tried that in that one episode where, like, Igor's in that two-piece bikini and Damien's in that dress, but, like, I think that was enough is enough.
Yeah. That night it snowed, and I didn't get to see Joel in all his glory in his bikini. Kind of glad it snowed that night.
I like this scene, too, because whenever they said I think the line was they needed a virgin for something, and then they looked at Leah or Gigi, and she's like, what? I like pretzels. Like, she doesn't even know what the word virgin means, and they look at Joel, he's trying to convince him that Carmen Electra's his girlfriend.
I remember this because we have like this stack of Playboys somebody brought in, and like Hustler and everything. There's like all these pictures of us in the studio, like looking at, like all the Playboys and everything, and it's kind of funny.
He whips out his wallet. He's like really trying to prove that he has a girlfriend. This is so typical Joel. You know what the funny thing is? He has such short hair here, and this was actually our first episode after being on a hiatus for Christmas. So it was our first episode in the spring, and his hair between this episode and 3 or 4 weeks later, he grew a beard. Do you remember him growing the beard?
Yeah, definitely.
And he grew this full Grizzly Adams looking beard, and his hair, he just let himself totally go. And I said, Joel, what's your story? He's like, it's method acting. I want to get into the role of Igor. And I'm like, okay. And then he ended up wearing like his scarecrow outfit to classes and like all the time, and people were recognizing him. I loved it.
This is one of my favorite parts too. This was down in the conference room in McCormick. We shot this, and I'm pretty sure it was just you gave us the camera and we just shot it, like set it on a tripod and then set it on the table, and we just shot it ourselves. That's one thing I really like you trust, like most professors wouldn't do that, but like you trusted us enough to go out and film our own stuff and knew we could do it and not have crappy work in the end.
Yeah, and you did a wonderful job at it too. I mean, this was pretty nicely done. And you know what's the ironic thing is too is this is the same room that we would write Frightening Fridays in every was it Monday nights? Like Monday nights at 9, we crank out an episode in 2 hours.
There's Matt, yeah. That was I love that. I was like, yeah, bitches. Like, that's not what you wanted, is it?
I was inspired by this when we first wrote it from an episode of Friends I saw when they found some videotape, and like at the end they kept letting it play, and Chandler started singing Rocket Man. Yeah, and I said that'd be kind of funny. So it's like, well, parody is the sincerest form of flattery. So I thought that was kind of neat. That's where we got that idea.
And she's so annoyed because I'm so cocky and got my Bloom pamphlets and just walked out of the room.
Yeah, so if you don't think that I'm like a double agent anymore, I'm going to get my Bloom pamphlets and I'm done here for the day. Goodbye. And she's all, And
then this is the lovely crepe paper wedding.
Yeah, Cedric has spared no expense for his betrothed. He's just laying crepe paper all over shit. He don't care, and then Damien's ripping it down.
That's the best thing about crepe paper, too. You can just, like, one rip and it's done.
He even has freaking Bloomsburg pom-poms everywhere. Oh, look, they're shooting off set.
Oh. It's not good. Oh, there goes another pom-pom. I like the bones too laying there. They just sort of look like we should have had a dog. And that's why we threw them. Like the dog was chasing the bones.
Yeah.
Catch,
Looks pretty good.
And there's this staff, the infamous staff that, I still don't know where it is. None of us do.
You know what's funny? I said this in another commentary too. I can't replace it either. I couldn't find that staff to save my life anywhere on the internet. I did searches. It's gone and gone for good.
I told you where it is though. It's next to that voodoo doll of you that Mendoza has.
Yeah, pretty much. Mendoza probably has it as a trophy at home in her house.
And well, didn't it stop when you pressed it? Didn't it stop moving after a while because we pressed it so much?
Yeah, but no, we took the battery out because it would go off for no reason.
Yeah, that's right. Okay. I was gonna say if not, she probably got it to laugh again. She's like, they don't know where it is.
I have this. It's from that show, fucking Fridays. No, that's Frightening Fridays, you moron. You never watched it, so you wouldn't know. This is when we went to D.C. and shot the FBI building.
Mm-hmm. So many places are so generous with us coming down, you know.
It was nice too. George W. put us up for the night.
Yeah, it was real nice.
You know what that tape is? It's like some crapola tape that's laying around and it's supposed to be like FBI evidence. I think it was like an old episode of that Burly Bear show that we aired on BUTV that...
Yeah, they were just tapes from in that office room that we just grabbed and tore apart, and we knew nobody'd miss them.
Look at this dump that he's working in. Now, this is a lot like that show on the X-Files because he worked down in like this dingy, kind of like sewery place that everybody forgot about. But look, there's an old bike sitting there and a crate full of crap. Now, the one thing I did like was we had like a...
machine box.
The fog machine box. And then, but I did like how we kind of recover. We have like, well, we'll fix it. We'll call it evidence. And we put up a sign that said evidence. So all the crap that we store back here for Frightening Fridays to do any other time is really there because it's where we store it. We just marked it evidence because he's trying to build a case, you know.
Oh, it worked.
I always meant to ask you, whenever you put the bomb there and you came out and you start to make your getaway, you kind of just stopped again and like... You wouldn't remember, but I mean, like, you kind of, like, dusted yourself off or something and kept on walking. I was like, why?
I don't know. I think I maybe did it to be, like, maybe to make sure nobody was there, you know, type thing. Like, I was, like, checking, make sure nobody saw me type thing, or maybe I was proud of myself. I don't know. But, yeah, it doesn't make any sense, but, you know.
Here's the funny thing about television. This scene was shot prior to the last scene out of order when the stuff was actually up because Damien had to come in and tear it all down, so this was actually shot out of order. Cedric didn't put it all back up.
Nope, we did that a lot, but you can sort of tell because do you see the little crepe paper hanging off the altar?
Oh yeah.
That's not in the I think that's the first thing Damien takes down is that crepe paper off the altar.
I know something that bugged Ben. He told me about, I don't think he's mentioned it yet in the commentaries, he would tie his hair back, and other times it would be free. And I think, if you were to ask him, is it supposed to be like long and flowing when you're on camera, I think he would say yes. But there are times that you just forget about it when your hair's pulled back like that. I like how those buttons are still on Jeremy's jacket.
His Devo button, and I forget what the other one was.
Is it Devo, really? Is it like the band from the 80s? Oh my god, that's hysterical.
It's a red one, the other one, but that's definitely a Devo button.
Now this little finale, I don't even know how we came up with it. We just we ended up doing like a Dukes of Hazzard kind of thing, and then this is, what you're hearing is Jeremy's voice in actuality.
I don't remember this at all, actually.
He does like a Dukes of Hazzard thing, like they would always wrap up on that show, like, oh, those Duke boys. Are they really?
Yeah. That's weird. I don't remember that.
You won't remember this either. And if you listen real close right here, that little Roscoe P. Coltrane, that goo 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 laugh, and that was actually me in post-production. So that was our 6th episode of Frightening Fridays.
Yes.
And that was a lot of fun to do. Mm-hmm. Any final thoughts on that episode?
No, I think that's probably the one where you saw me the most, and I did my best acting. I think my last episode I did my worst acting, but...
You actually are in it a lot in the next one, because you go down and you put like the charger on your head and the robot charger and stuff like that. Yeah. You have quite a bit that you forget about. It's amazing whenever you watch these things how much you remember. It's funny.
Yeah, probably because I think my scenes were so short. We got them done probably first, and then like everybody else's seemed like forever, so that's probably why I remember being on it that much, but it was fun.
Well, I tell you what, that's it for this commentary for episode 6. We'll see you again on episode 7, and on behalf of Heather Sage, I want to say thank you for listening to our commentary, and we'll see you next time. Any quick peace outs?
No, just peace.
And we'll see you next time. Bad luck and worst wishes.